As the saying goes, everything that is done in the darkness will one day come to light. This may not be a video that will interest white people because for the longest time, they have lied about history. They have lied about black people. And somehow, they managed to get away with this. But let me tell you, everything that's done in the darkness, I'll repeat again, anything that's done in the darkness will one day come to light. I'm sure if I was to go back like 300 years back, nobody would have believed that this day will come to happen true because we are going to see white people getting exposed about the things they lied about first, black people, about the things they lied about history, big part history, because it is history that contains what black folks went through, what they subjected black folks through. So again, I say, everything you do in the dark will one day come to light. But another day of exposing white lies. Brothers and sisters, I want us to watch this video where there are historical lies that are going to be deconstructed. And we are going to see the reality of the matter. For the longest time, black folks have lived with lies. Black folks have been told some things that they didn't do. Stereotypes, everything wrong that have always been painted on black people. Today, brothers and sisters, they are going to be deconstructed. Very well. When people add the part of holding a pen and a paper, they wrote a part of history. They wrote some history that were not true. And somehow, time is catching up with them. Brothers and sisters, I'm your host and presenter, Eugenic Stories. And thank you for always taking your time watching my videos. Now, let's get into it. I'll be back with my thoughts and commentaries in regards to this. So let's get into it.
I mean, imagine you go all around the world and smash up everything that other civilizations built, loot what they built, pillage, steal, even steal their ideas and their concepts and their philosophies. And then you sit on top of this mountain of stolen goods and declare yourself to be rich because of your own merit. And imagine telling this lie to your children, to your own children, to your grandchildren, generation after generation. How do you think that's going to go? You didn't invest in creating actual merit. You cheated, you lied, you stole, you brutalized, and then you
never told this story in a video. I've mentioned it on podcasts before, but I've never made a video and told the story. My mother, seen here, was 16 years old when I was born. My dad was 21. They'd been together since she was 14. So she was 14, he was 19 when they got together. You guys have heard me talk about my dad before. He was very racist. My mother will tell you the same. And my mother, being very young and uneducated, she just kind of went along with whatever my dad did. And he was also abusive. My mother was abused. And I talked to her before I made this video to make sure that she's okay with me telling that part of her story. My dad was a domestic abuser and also a child abuser. He abused me as well. That's not the point of this video, though. When I was 3 years old, my mother was 19, she found the courage to leave my dad, which wasn't easy to do. And the divorce was nasty because my dad he's passed away now, a pretty controlling, narcissistic type guy. And shortly after leaving my dad, my mother was in a relationship with another man who was a black man. And my dad being the racist. See, I was raised in the 80s in North Carolina, and my dad was a racist. So her leaving him for a black man was like this big taboo thing. Like, you don't do that. And so when everything went to court, my dad ultimately got custody of me because the judge in the 80s in North Carolina is not giving the child to the woman dating a black man, to the white woman dating a black man, especially when my dad was the one with the career and the income and the money, and my mom had nothing. He had left her with nothing. Fast forward to when I was 10 years old. During those 7 years after the divorce, my dad taught me to hate my mom. He taught me that she was a sinner, that the Bible did not approve of interracial marriages. He showed me in the Bible where the Bible says you can't marry outside your race. And I believed her to be basically of the devil himself. I hated her. When I was 10 years old, I found out that my dad was being taken to court because my mother was trying to get visitation rights. I was terrified. I didn't want to meet this evil woman. She won. She got visitation rights of me. I'll never forget ever to this day. I can still vividly remember where I was, the weather and everything when she picked me up the first time. I was terrified. But I made it my mission, that first visit, that she would never visit me again. I made that my mission, that she would never want to see me after this day. I called her a sinner. I called her children, because she had 3 children with her second husband. Obviously, they were biracial children. And I called her children the N-word. I called her an N-word lover. Now, keep in mind, I'm 10 years old, but this is how I was raised. This is what I believed at age 10. And she told me, you shouldn't think like this or talk like this, and I ignored her. It was like a 2-hour visitation, whatever it was, and then she dropped me back off at my house. And I told my dad, she'll never pick me up again, Dad, I promise you. 2 weeks later, when it was time for her next visitation, I waited in my yard on the Saturday at the time that I was supposed to be there. And I was sure she wouldn't pull up, but she did. She did pull up. I was befuddled. Oh my God, she came back. This time, she took me to her house in a mostly black neighborhood, and a place I had never been. I was raised on the mountain, all white neighborhood, very much racist. And I was told that black neighborhoods were crime-ridden, filthy areas. Avoid them. So I went to this black neighborhood and I thought, oh my God. I went in her house and she said, I want you to meet your brothers and sisters. And they came out and they were so excited to see me because my mom had never told them a bad thing about me. And I wanted to be mean to them because that's how I was raised. But I couldn't bring myself to be mean to them because they were so nice and polite to me. I was not nice to them. I tolerated them in my mind, but I wasn't mean to them. And then every 2 weeks she came and got me. And over the course of time, I built a relationship with my siblings, with her. And I started questioning things like maybe the things my dad told me are not true, because what I see in this neighborhood, what I see in my mom's house, what I see everywhere is not what I was told. And I had a choice to make at the early age of about 11. Do I believe what I was raised, or do I challenge these ideas? And just like my mom had got away from my dad and challenged those ideas and grew and was better, I decided that I too can be better. I started challenging the ideas my dad raised me. It started a very tumultuous relationship with my dad, as if it wasn't tumultuous to begin with. Again, I was an abused child. I'm trying to keep this video short, so I'm missing a lot of very deep details, but I'm trying to give you the idea. By the time I was 15, I had read books and read the speeches of Dr. King and watched interviews with Malcolm X. And I really started realizing, like, there's a whole nother world out there that I didn't realize. Fred Hampton, Angela Davis, these things really opened my eyes. And I even basically got into a fight with my dad over it when I was 15 and was thrown out of my house. But my deconstruction process had begun, and it has continued for the past, 27 years. I'm 42 now. And it's all thanks to my mom. Just being a mom. Just showing up. And I've never had like the closest relationship with my mom because the story I just told you. But I've been friends with her now for, how old is that? 25 years. And I just want to say thanks for showing up. Thanks for not giving up on me. I may have never challenged my ideas and beliefs and may have been stuck in the same trap that, I was born into, and I wasn't. So thanks, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
When white people see my posts about racism in America, frequently they say, I didn't know. When black people see these comments, they say, we already know. There is no way you didn't know. Don't pretend you didn't. This disconnect is really hard to explain, and I've been trying to understand it myself. I'm going to be digging into this really deep because I think it's so important. It's not that we're just oblivious white people. It's that we've been groomed to be oblivious white people. People point out that it's not like this stuff is locked in some vault somewhere. It's available. You can see it. And that's true. But we were trained not to ask questions. We were trained not to look for it. And I see it in my family. I see it in my circle of friends, even some of my friends that are pretty progressive. We have this ingrained training to not ask too many questions. We were taught to trust authority figures, teachers, ministers, police officers, politicians, the anchor guy on the evening news. We believed them because we were groomed from childhood to believe that they were trustworthy. We were not taught that the system itself, the system they were part of, was designed to protect itself first. And frankly, it felt good just to trust them. It's like you had this permanent mommy and daddy figure. It made life feel safe. The gaps in white knowledge were filled in with lies. We were told that poor people were lazy, that's why they're poor. That crime existed in black neighborhoods because they were black neighborhoods. That broken families cause poverty. These ideas were not questioned. They were treated as common sense. And we were started with our grooming as infants, as little tiny babies, as little bitty kids that are impressionable and just forming our ideas about the world. So that was our social foundation. We were told that black people can't keep their marriages together. I was even told that the reason they couldn't keep their marriages together was because of how they were treated during slavery. So out of one side of their mouth, they'd say, wasn't that horrible that families were split up during slavery? But now that has just become part of who they are. And so it's their fault. I don't know, it didn't make sense to me either. We also were not told that welfare benefits were not available if there was a man in the house. A black woman working 2 jobs who still needed support to raise her children could not have a husband or partner living in the house with her. And of course we were taught that that was their fault because they couldn't keep their marriages together. As we were growing up and we started to repeat these beliefs, we were seen as respectful and well-adjusted. I don't know, are you getting pissed off? I'm getting pissed off just going through this again. We were guided by the TV news and movies and TV shows to care when white people suffered and to disconnect from the pain of other people. We were taught to feel patriotic about our country without questioning whether they were being truthful with us about why we should feel such patriotism. When we asked those white authority figures that we were taught to trust, we were lied to. Now, when black people give us honest answers, we don't fully trust them. It's not about ignorance, it's about conditioning. My education is in behavior analysis, and that's how that works. You just expose someone to a social system that supports a certain line of thinking, and you fall for it, especially if you are started out as a young kid being taught all that stuff. And that's what happens to all of us. We were taught that silence is polite and that truth about society is rude or inappropriate. And as a girl that went to a fundamentalist Christian church, that was even more so. You don't ask questions that are going to make people uncomfortable. But that comfort, you see, it kept us obedient. It kept us from asking too many questions. It kept us from wanting to do anything about it because we didn't fully understand that there was something that needed to be done. We were used to preserve a system that depended on our own silence. It kept us from befriending black people. It kept us from knowing what the hell we thought we knew about those people. So when white people say, I didn't know about any of this, understand what that really means. We were trained not to look. We were trained to believe the stories that we were told by the authority figures. We were shaped by a system that used your trust against you. We were trained to look away. And now we have a choice. White people, We need to get angry about being kept in the dark all these years so that together with our black neighbors and neighbors of all races, we can break down this oppressive system that has brought us here to the point of fascism. Check the caption for some documentaries to help you get started learning. We need to really get curious.
Hi, I'm Kylie, and here are 3 myths you learned in school that are colonial lies. Number 1, Africa had no history before colonization. This is completely false. Have you ever heard of ancient Egypt? I think a lot of people forget that Egypt is in Africa. Also, Great Zimbabwe had a thriving civilization. Colonial powers erased this history because they wanted them to seem like the real people who would bring change to the world. Number 2, indigenous peoples were primitive. In reality, indigenous societies had complex systems. I'm talking related to politics, astronomy, trade. I mean, they had their shit together. The label of primitive is propaganda that so many people are still buying into to justify land theft. And number 3, the British Empire brought civilization to the world. What they actually brought was resource extraction, cultural erasure, and genocide. Many colonized societies were already thriving before the British arrived. I get a lot of people in my comments like, the white man created everything. White men are the reason society functions the way it does today. European colonization and white supremacy created a lot of evil in this world. The good things you point to already existed before they came.
So you mean to tell me white people took the school books and lied about history already, trying to lie about history now, and you think the book that they used to enslave people is the same book that you're gonna use for your salvation?
Hey, so you've been lied to about this? Our founding fathers were not old, contrary to our current government. Every time I ask students to describe the founding fathers in 3 words, I hear old white men. But on July 4th, 1776, James Monroe was 18 years old. Aaron Burr was 20. John Marshall was 20. Alexander Hamilton was only 21 years old. Betsy Ross was 24. James Madison was 25. Thomas Jefferson was only 33 on July 4th, 1776. Meanwhile, the other day, I'm watching the State of the Union, and I feel like I am watching a live simulcast of the world's most expensive nursing home. If you are a teenager or a college student or a young adult and you want to make a difference, stop waiting for permission for leadership from the people who refuse to leave office and have been in Washington, D.C. longer than twice the time we've been alive, who can't remember their own name, or who were born before the invention of the microwave oven. Yeah, that one hurts. Because despite what we've allowed to happen in modern society, our country is not supposed to be governed by the same people throughout their entire lifetime. And the world relies on young voices speaking truth to power. It did in 1776, and it still does in 2024. And if you need some more inspiration, here you go.
This might be a hot take, but I don't think that Black people will ever be free until they finally deconstruct from a white supremacist religion that was forced on us through colonialism. And I always think of that quote by Nina Simone where she said that the people that built their heaven on your land are telling you yours is in the sky. Something to think about.
If you are white in America, there is a pretty darn good chance that the Civil War you learned about in school was a lie. That was a 100-year campaign to protect white power. And the United Daughters of the Confederacy were the masterminds. The UDC was founded in 1894, and they called themselves Protectors of Southern Heritage. But their real work was making sure white children grew up believing the Confederacy fought for noble reasons. Not to keep millions of black people enslaved. They crafted the lost cause story. Slavery was said to be benign. Enslaved people were loyal servants, and Confederate leaders were honorable. If you grow up thinking your ancestors fought for liberty instead of for slavery, you're far less likely to question racism in the present. But we believe it because when you're a kid, you're coming up, the smart people are telling you how things are, you just go for it. The UDC lobbied to control school textbooks. They banned any book that told the truth about slavery or said that the Civil War was about human bondage. They said that Reconstruction failed because black people were unfit for citizenship. That lie became the foundation of white political thinking for generations, and it's still around today. They also covered the South with Confederate monuments. But decades later, in the heart of Jim Crow, these were not just memorials. They were public billboards for white dominance, placed right in front of courthouses so that black people would not forget who was in charge. White people need to understand this because we inherit the worldview they build for us. We need to question everything. When I say, get curious, this is what I'm talking about. The UDC engineered a lie so powerful, it still shapes America today. If you are white like me, learning the truth is not about guilt-tripping yourself. It's about breaking the spell. It's about learning the truth. I am not an expert, but I am an avid learner, and I'd love for you to join me. Help me keep doing this research for these videos by offering a donation of any size, if you'd like to, at ko-fi.com. Kelly Snyder, Spelling Matters. Get curious.
No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago.
Let's talk about some American history. Christine Jorgensen was born in America in 1926. After serving for the U.S. Army, she transitioned into a woman. In 1951, she was the first American trans woman to have gender reassignment surgery.
Thank you all for coming, but I think it's too much.
Renee Richards was also born in America in 1934. She was a professional tennis player, and in 1977, Renee was the first trans woman to compete in the US Open.
Should she be allowed to play against women opponents?
I'm a woman like everyone else. Ask me how the match went instead.
And let's mention the Native Americans. Gender expression was a part of their culture, which they called two-spirited people. That dates back to nearly 30,000 years ago. Trans people were not created by left-wing Americans in the past few years, and it makes me wonder how anyone can lie to a nation about its own history. Then I remembered we're talking about a man who should actually be in jail, so I guess that makes sense. Donald, hi. Please stop using a minority as your political target and lying to your nation about its history. Thank you.
Columbus didn't discover America. You can't discover a place where people are already living, but we celebrate that every October. It's a lie. We need to stop telling the myths and start telling the truth. If we start teaching the truth about history, if we start teaching about Nile Valley contributions to civilization, it will totally change the way we conduct ourselves in the classroom. It will have to.
For everyone genuinely believing Western media propaganda about what's going on in Iran, they lied to you about Vietnam with the Gulf of Tonkin incident used to justify war. They lied to you about South Africa by supporting apartheid for years and calling it stability. They lied about Kuwait with false testimony to sell the Gulf War. They lied about Iraq. There were no weapons of mass destruction. They lied about Afghanistan. Internal documents, which you can access yourself, showed officials knew the war was not winnable. That progress was being exaggerated to the public for years. We struggled in Afghanistan. They lied to you about Colombia under the guise of war on drugs while fueling violence against Colombians. They lied about Venezuela through sanctions and narratives around intervention. They lied about Libya, claiming it was about protecting civilians, and it turns into a regime change. They lied to you about Syria, constantly shifting narratives around who we were actually supporting. They lied to you about Yemen while backing a humanitarian crisis. They lied about the DRC, ignoring and enabling exploitation and genocide tied to resources. They lied about Sudan, downplaying involvement and strategic interests. They lied to you about Palestine, framing occupation and violence as self-defense. What on earth makes you think they are telling you the truth about Iran? The United States loves to talk about how Iran can't have weapons, but who gave them to them? You ever heard of the Iran-Contra affair in the 1980s? The United States secretly sold weapons to Iran, even though we publicly considered Iran an enemy, and we had an arms embargo in place. They were not supposed to have weapons. And then they took the money they got from selling those weapons and illegally funded a war in Nicaragua behind the Congress and the public's back.
became one of the biggest scandals in political history, triggered congressional investigations, led to indictments, convictions of multiple officials. No? And all while this is even still happening, Iran was still treated like an enemy publicly. So if that happened then, what makes you think everything happening now is being fully told to you? Open your eyes.
We lied about Vietnam. We lied about Iraq. We lied about Afghanistan. We lied about Somalia. We lied about Libya. We put more small arms and medium arms into the hands of terrorist groups the world over by not securing Gaddafi's weapons caches in Libya than any arms merchant has ever put into the world. Did the same thing in Iraq. We failed to secure Saddam Hussein's arm caches. We didn't have enough troops to do it, so we just left them for Al-Qaeda and ISIS and others to have their...
As a white passing mixed person, I hear racist stuff all the time. It's time to expose. Alright, so one time I was with this group of white people, and the girls were talking about this girl who had jungle fever. And this white girl goes, "Isn't it a shame to see our race mixing with another? What's going to happen to our white purity?" I couldn't believe what I just heard. There was another time where I was at a party, and the only other black person there left early. Right after he left, one of the white dudes there proceeded to say the N-word. Not even in a song or anything, just said it out loud. When I confronted him about it, he said, "What? He's not here anymore." Little did he know that I'm a double agent. Needless to say, that situation was handled. There was another time where we were talking about an opposing basketball team. We were talking about why the team was so good, and somebody goes, "They're only good because they let all the charity cases on the team." There were no white people on this team. I'm sure I'm not the only white passing person with these kinds of stories, so feel free to duet.
The reason I say white Americans have no culture is because most of the things that have become associated with white people were black inventions. White people love vanilla, but did you know that vanilla was actually invented by an enslaved black teenager who was 14 years old? His name was Edmund Albius. He's the person who made vanilla a mass-produced product because he figured out how to rapidly pollinate these plants. Or number two, if you've ever heard of techno music, that was actually invented by black people in Detroit in the 80s, which now has become synonymous with a lot of white people in the US or white Europeans, when actually in reality this was purely the creation of a black person and black people. Or number three, the thing that I think of a lot is how white people have co-opted barbecue. Specifically in California, where I grew up, you will see a lot of barbecue joints that were actually white people's recipes that they stole from black people. It's very much a ripoff of the common Southern home cooking, which, you know, came out of the American South, both during slavery and during the Reconstruction era. So yes, white people don't have any culture, we steal it. And that has historically been the case, and that is why white people are so angry. You know any other inventions created by black people but stolen by white people? Drop them in the comments. Okay, bye.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. Again, I'm your host and presenter, Gender Stories. It is always a good time to speak about all these truths, to expose all these lies that have always been pushed in regards to black people. At the end of the day, the truth will always comes out. And one thing, and if there is nobody that you cannot lie to, you cannot lie to yourself. You can see definitely that it has reached a point where white folks themselves are questioning the history that they were given, right? We can definitely see them questioning the history that they were given. And it doesn't make sense to them. And for the longest time, it was painted that black folks are the ones that made all these things happen the way they happened. They made black folks feel low of themselves because of lies that were produced in regards to black people. Now, I want to share what people really said in regards to this because I believe that it's really imperative, that it's really important for me to talk about this, for me to share in regards to this. So somebody said that I was raised by old school white farmer, a Masonic member in a small community. I never seen a non-Caucasian before. I went on a vacation at 5. My dad died when I was 9. I moved to a city of 20,000 people. My first real friends were black. They were just kids. I flocked too. They let me play basketball and baseball with them. They invited me over to their house and cooked me food. They explained to me about the hood and the bad parts of the town it wasn't safe to ride my bikes in. They cared more about my dreams and well-being than members of my own family. My best friend of 30 years, mom was raised in southern Mississippi and watched her best friend get burned walking home from school as a kid. She never once showed any aid to me, being white. I'm only the only non-blood members that's even sat at the table after church with them. It's not about color, it's about character. So somebody shared that. And I think it goes to the lies of the stereotypes in regards to black folks, right? Somebody also said that I'm a 52-year-old white male. I've worked in a construction in southern Alabama. An African-American lady walked across the street and invited me to have lunch with her and her family. Instead of me eating a cold sandwich, the best southern food I've eaten and the hospitality I've experienced still to this day in 34 years, God bless. Somebody also said that to the white man that was saying that his dad was a racist and had put him against his mom. I have to say very proud of you finding them out of the truth and gave them your better self-understanding. And I was cheering up myself, very proud of him, and that just goes to show kids that not born racist. I taught them to see it, I taught them so it doesn't hurt to give someone a chance to change. That's really nice of, all these parents. Somebody said that as a white French girl, I had to consider black culture at the university. And it was all about fun, laughing, dancing, studying, sharing with others, elder people. I made up my mind and chose to marry a black guy and had 3 mixed kids. My choice was guided by love, to be honest. Never one regret. After all, we are only one race. That's a human race. Somebody also shared that the real problem here is that they thought they were controlling us through not letting our ancestors be educated. That would leave with the list of everything. But here we are now 400 years later, and we are thriving and surviving educated well beyond what they could have imagined. They are at the top of our country, but now they are not understanding how and when did we become so intelligent, smart, sophisticated, to where they are beneath us when it comes to brains, right? Someone also shared that I am white and was privileged to have been born and raised in Africa. Let's talk about it. There was a lot of racism going on, segregation, apartheid next door in South Africa. He says that he's Zimbabwean. I grew up with my parents telling me that racism, segregation, etc. was wrong and very counterproductive. We employed lack domestic staff and my dad paid for night school so they could get an education to help them find a better future. I loved John and Margaret, our staff members. John became very dear, lifelong friend of mine. I truly love the Zimbabwean people. They are still living in very challenging conditions, but manage to smile and still be such great people, right? Someone also said that racism is taught in the home. It stems from your parents having no interaction with other races outside their own. Their fear of becoming a minority in America makes them extremely insecure. Their guilt of all terrible things their ancestors did to other races to build this country makes them so paranoid to the point they start sieving guns out of fear and represale whoever long since buried the past and forget them. It sounds like you and your family were not alone. You have been mentally abused and brainwashed, and the process can be reversed. Indeed. People are opening up and they are talking and they are sharing about this. Somebody also said that as a promoter in the city of Boston, I see many nightclubs who choose to have house music, techno nights, as a way to keep African American crowd away from their clubs. The big irony is our white college kids, white folks have adopted house music technology as their own now. Most of them have no idea it was created by black DJs from Chicago, right? Thank you so much for sharing the truth. Also, for the lady who shared the African American history truth, the young man who shared his personal experience with racial intolerance, truth, the real eye opener. And the truth shall set you free indeed, right? So, please let me know what you all think about this. I want to know your opinion in regards to this. I want to know your opinion in regards to this, brothers and sisters. As you know, I'm your host and presenter, Eugenic Stories, but until then, let me see you in my next video. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute.